Alison Parker stood in the checkout line at Westfield Grocery, exhaustion etched across her face as she gently bounced her 9-month-old son, Noah, on her hip. His chubby fingers tangled in her disheveled blonde hair while she fumbled with her wallet. The fluorescent lights overhead highlighted the dark circles under her eyes, a badge of motherhood she'd worn proudly for the past 9 months, despite everything falling apart around her. "That'll be $78. 43, the cashier announced, her voice tinged with the flatness of someone 8 hours into their shift. Alison stared at the display in dismay. She'd carefully calculated everything in her cart, but somehow she was still over budget. Her gaze fell on the premium formula she'd selected, Noah's favorite brand, but at $32.99 it was nearly half her total. Her stomach tightened as she made a quick mental calculation. "I'm sorry, I need to put this back," she said, separating the formula from her other groceries. "I'll just get the store brand instead next time." The words felt like stones in her throat. The store brand gave Noah terrible gas, but her bank account couldn't take another hit. "No problem, ma'am," the cashier replied mechanically, reaching for the canister. "Not today," came a deep voice from behind her. Alison turned to find herself face to face with a tall man in a perfectly tailored navy suit. His presence commanded attention, but it was his eyes that caught her off guard, warm brown and startlingly kind amid the sterile grocery environment. "I've got it," he said, pulling out a sleek leather wallet and handing a credit card to the cashier before Alison could protest. "The formula, too." "Sir, I can't accept," Alison began, but Noah chose that moment to let out a piercing wail, effectively ending her objection. "Consider it paid forward," the man said with a gentle smile. "I'm Jack, by the way, Jack Harrison." The name tickled something in Alison's memory, but with Noah screaming and a line forming behind them, she couldn't place it. "Thank you, but really you don't have to." "Already done," Jack replied as the cashier handed him back his card. "Besides, my mother would haunt me from beyond if I didn't help a mum in need." There was something disarmingly genuine about him that made Alison pause. In the 3 months since Ryan had walked out, leaving her with a 6-month-old baby and a mountain of debt, she'd grown suspicious of kindness, waiting for the other shoe to drop. "Thank you," she finally managed, her voice thick with emotion she refused to release in the middle of a grocery store. "I'm Alison. This is Noah." Jack smiled at the baby, who had suddenly become fascinated by the stranger, his cries turning to curious coos. "Nice to meet you both. Let me help you to your car." Outside in the parking lot, as Jack helped load the groceries into her ancient Honda with the dented rear bumper and peeling paint, Alison felt a strange mix of gratitude and embarrassment. "I don't normally accept help from strangers," she said, securing Noah in his car seat. "I don't normally offer," Jack replied with a laugh. "But sometimes life throws unexpected moments our way," Alison nodded, remembering all too well how quickly life could change. 6 months ago, she'd been a marketing coordinator with a promising career, a husband she thought loved her, and a beautiful baby boy. Now she was a single mother working part-time from home, stretching every dollar until it screamed. "Well, thank you again," she said, closing the car door. "You've made a bigger difference than you know." Jack seemed to hesitate, then reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. "Look, I know this might seem odd, but I'm actually the CEO of Little Dreamers." Alison's eyes widened. Little Dreamers was one of the largest baby product companies in the country. Suddenly, she remembered why his name had sounded familiar. She'd seen his profile in a business magazine. "We're looking for parents to join our product testing program," he continued. "You'd receive products to test and provide feedback, plus compensation for your time. It's all remote work, perfect for busy parents." The offer sounded too good to be true, and in Alison's experience, that meant it usually was. "Why me?" she asked directly, protective instincts flaring. Jack's expression softened. "Honestly, we need more single parents in our program. They're our toughest critics and give the most valuable feedback. Plus, Noah seems like he has a lot to say." He gestured to the baby, who was now babbling animatedly in his car seat. Alison couldn't help but smile. "He definitely has opinions." "Think about it," Jack said, stepping back from her car. "No pressure. My email's on the card." That night, after putting Noah to bed, Alison sat at her small kitchen table staring at Jack's business card. A quick internet search confirmed he was exactly who he claimed to be. The 38-year-old CEO, who had transformed Little Dreamers from a small family business into an industry leader known for quality and innovation. What the articles didn't mention was his kindness to strangers in grocery stores. Her fingers hovered over her laptop keyboard as she debated emailing him. Was this an opportunity or just another disappointment waiting to happen? The memory of Ryan's final words echoed in her mind. "You're naive, Allison, always believing the best in people." Maybe she was naive, but Noah deserved every opportunity she could provide him. With a deep breath, she began typing, "Dear Mr. Harrison, this is Allison Parker from the grocery store today. I'd like to learn more about your product testing program." She hit send before she could change her mind, unaware that this simple email would set in motion events that would completely transform her life. 2 days later, Allison received a response from Little Dreamers' HR department with details about the program and an invitation to a virtual orientation the following week. Everything seemed legitimate, but a voice in the back of her mind, one that sounded suspiciously like Ryan, whispered caution. As she prepared for the video call, settling Noah with his toys on the living room floor, Allison couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. When her screen filled with the faces of the Little Dreamers team, including Jack himself, she realized this might be the second chance she'd been praying for. What she didn't know was that Jack Harrison had his own reasons for being at that checkout line, reasons that would soon intertwine their lives in ways neither could have imagined. The Little Dreamers orientation began with introductions from the team. Jack spoke last, his professional demeanor a stark contrast to the kind stranger from the grocery store. "We believe parents know best what babies need," he explained. "That's why your feedback is invaluable to us." Allison listened intently, taking notes while occasionally checking on Noah, who was happily gumming a teething ring. When it came time for the parent participants to introduce themselves, she felt a flutter of nervousness. "I'm Allison Parker," she began, adjusting her webcam. "Single mom to Noah, who's 9 months old. I was a marketing coordinator before becoming a mom. Now I'm freelancing and—" She hesitated, trying to figure things out. Jack's expression warmed when she appeared on screen. "Welcome, Allison. We're glad to have your perspective." The orientation continued with explanations of the testing process, confidentiality agreements, and compensation details. It was more professional and comprehensive than Allison had expected. By the end of the call, her skepticism had given way to cautious excitement. As the other participants signed off, Jack asked Allison to stay on the call. "How's Noah doing with that formula?" he asked once they were alone. "Much better, thank you," she replied, surprised he remembered. "That was a really difficult day." Jack nodded, his expression shifting subtly. "I recognized that look. My sister had it often enough when she was raising my nephew alone." He paused. "Allison, there's another reason I wanted to talk to you. Your marketing background caught my attention. We're actually looking to expand our parent focus group into a full advisory panel, and we need someone to coordinate it. It would be a contracted position with flexible hours. Would you be interested?" Allison's heart raced. A real job opportunity, with flexible hours, no less. Yes, I'd be very interested." "Great," Jack smiled. "Our HR director will contact you with details. And Allison, I have a good feeling about this." After they disconnected, Allison picked up Noah and spun him around the living room, his giggles filling the small apartment. "Things might be looking up, little man," she whispered against his soft hair. What she couldn't know was that across town, Jack Harrison sat in his office staring at her resume, a photograph on his desk showing him with a dark-haired woman holding a baby. His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Harrison, your sister's on line 1. Jack picked up the phone. "Hey, Michelle, yes, I found her, Allison Parker. You were right, she's perfect for the position." He paused, listening. "No, she has no idea. And for now, that's how it needs to stay." 3 weeks into her contract with Little Dreamers, Allison was beginning to feel like her old self again. The advisory panel coordinator position played perfectly to her strengths, and the flexible hours meant she could work during Noah's naps or after he went to bed. The additional income had already eased her financial strain, allowing her to pay down some of the debt Ryan had left behind. Today, she sat cross-legged on her living room floor, surrounded by prototype baby products sent for her review, a spill-proof sippy cup with an innovative valve system, organic bamboo teething toys, and a baby carrier designed for comfort during extended wear. Noah crawled among them, immediately drawn to a colorful stacking toy. "That one's the winner, huh?" she said, snapping a photo of him gnawing on the rainbow rings. She typed notes into her laptop. Vibrant colors attract attention. Rings easy for small hands to grasp. Texture appealing for teething babies. Her phone chimed with an incoming video call from Jack. These weekly check-ins had become a highlight of her schedule, though she tried not to examine that fact too closely. "Hey there," Jack greeted when she answered. He was in his office, the city skyline visible through the window behind him. "How's our youngest product tester doing today?" "Currently taste testing the stacking rings," Allison replied, turning the camera toward Noah, who babbled happily at the familiar face on screen. "Excellent research technique," Jack laughed. "How about his research coordinator? How are you doing?" Allison turned the camera back to herself. "Honestly, better than I've been in months. This job has been... Well, I don't want to get sappy on you." "Sappy is acceptable on Fridays," Jack assured her with a warm smile. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, suddenly self-conscious. "It's given me purpose again. After Ryan left, I was just trying to survive each day. Now I'm actually building something." Jack's expression shifted at the mention of Ryan. "His loss," he said simply. "Listen, I'm calling because we have an opportunity I think you'd be perfect for. We're hosting a product showcase for investors next Friday at our headquarters. I'd like you to present the advisory panel findings." Allison's eyes widened. "Me? In person? Jack? I haven't done a presentation since before Noah was born. I'm not sure—" "You're exactly the right person," he interrupted gently. "Who better to speak about products for parents than an actual parent using them? The board needs to see the real impact of what we're doing." She bit her lip, calculating logistics. "I'd need to find childcare for Noah." "Bring him," Jack said immediately. "We have an on-site daycare for employees. He'll be right in the building if you need him." Allison hesitated, thinking of her limited professional wardrobe and how long it had been since she'd stepped into a corporate environment. As if reading her thoughts, Jack added, "The company will cover your transportation and any expenses. This is important, Allison. Your perspective is valuable." Something in his earnest expression dissolved her reluctance. "Okay," she agreed. "I'll do it." After the call ended, Allison sat staring at her reflection in the dark phone screen. The opportunity was exciting but terrifying. Presenting to investors meant stepping back into the professional world she'd reluctantly left behind. It also meant seeing Jack in person again, a prospect that sent an unexpected flutter through her stomach. She'd been careful to maintain professional boundaries in their interactions, even as their weekly calls sometimes drifted into personal territory. Jack had mentioned growing up in Chicago with his sister Michelle, who'd raised her son alone after her husband died in a car accident. Allison had shared stories of her small hometown in Virginia and her journey to the city chasing marketing dreams. There was an easy rapport between them that Allison found both comforting and concerning. Getting emotionally entangled with her boss, especially one who was a powerful CEO, seemed like the definition of poor judgment. The weekend passed in a flurry of preparation. Allison dusted off her old presentation skills, created compelling slides showcasing parent feedback, and tried on every item in her closet twice. By Thursday evening, with her presentation polished and her one decent business outfit ironed, her nerves had reached a fever pitch. "This is just work," she told her reflection as she practiced in the bathroom mirror. "You're a professional, act like one." Friday morning arrived with a persistent drizzle that matched Allison's jittery mood. The car service Jack had arranged arrived precisely on time, the driver helping load Noah's diaper bag and portable seat. The Little Dreamers headquarters was a modern glass building downtown, its lobby bright and welcoming despite the grey day outside. Jack met them personally, dressed impeccably in a charcoal suit that made his shoulders look even broader than Allison remembered. "Welcome to our humble abode," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners when he smiled at Noah. "Someone's gotten bigger since I last saw him." "He grows overnight sometimes," Allison replied, trying to ignore the warmth that spread through her chest when Jack crouched down to Noah's level. "Important day today, buddy," Jack said seriously to the baby, who responded by offering him a soggy teething biscuit. "Thank you, I'll save that for later." Allison laughed, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. "Sorry, he's in a sharing phase." "The best quality in a person," Jack said, straightening up. "Let's get this little man settled in daycare, and then I'll show you around before the presentation." The daycare center was bright and cheerful, staffed by caregivers who immediately made Allison feel comfortable leaving Noah. After reviewing his schedule and promising to check in before lunch, she followed Jack on a tour of the building. "This is where the magic happens," Jack explained as they walked through the product development floor. From concept to prototype to final product, Allison was genuinely impressed by the thoughtful workspace with its collaborative areas and quiet zones. Photos of babies and families decorated the walls, along with framed testimonials from parents. "You really practice what you preach about family-friendly policies," she observed. Jack nodded, his expression serious. "It's personal for me. My sister struggled so much when my nephew was little, finding childcare, managing sick days, juggling it all alone. I promised myself if I ever had the power to make things different for working parents, I would." As they approached a conference room, Jack suddenly stopped. "There's something else you should know before the presentation." His tone made Allison's stomach tighten with apprehension. "My sister Michelle will be there today." "Oh," Allison said, confused by his serious demeanor. "I'd love to meet her." Jack's gaze was intense. "Michelle is our chief financial officer. She's very protective of this company, and of me." Before Allison could process that information, the conference room door opened, and a striking woman with dark hair and Jack's same warm brown eyes stepped out. "Jack, the investors are arriving early and—" She stopped abruptly, her gaze settling on Allison with unexpected recognition. "You must be Allison Parker." "Yes," Allison confirmed, extending her hand. "It's nice to meet you." Michelle's handshake was firm, her scrutiny direct. "Likewise, Jack has told me all about you." Something in her tone suggested layers of meaning that Allison couldn't decipher. There was an intensity to Michelle's examination that went beyond professional interest, almost as if she were looking for something specific in Allison's face. "All good things, I hope," Allison joked weakly. "Very good things," Michelle confirmed, glancing at her brother with an unreadable expression. "I'm particularly interested in your presentation today. Your background is fascinating." Jack cleared his throat. "We should get ready. The investors will be here soon." As they entered the conference room, Allison couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, some undercurrent she wasn't privy to. The way Michelle had looked at her felt strangely personal, as if she already knew her somehow. The presentation itself went better than Allison could have hoped. Her natural enthusiasm for the products shone through as she shared insights from the parent advisory panel. The investors asked engaged questions, clearly impressed by the real-world testing approach. Throughout, Jack watched her with undisguised pride, while Michelle observed with calculating interest. When the meeting adjourned for lunch, Allison excused herself to check on Noah. In the elevator, she finally had a moment to breathe and reflect on the morning's success. As the doors were about to close, a hand shot out to stop them and Michelle stepped in. "You did well in there," she said as the elevator began its descent. "Very well." "Thank you," Allison replied, still trying to read the other woman's intentions. "I've always believed in Little Dreamers products, but seeing them through a parent's eyes has given me new appreciation." Michelle nodded, seeming to come to some decision. "My brother mentioned that your ex-husband left when your son was 6 months old." The abrupt statement caught Allison off guard. "Yes," she said cautiously, "it's been challenging." Michelle's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "My husband died when my son was 2. Different circumstances, but similar challenges." "I'm so sorry," Allison said sincerely. "Jack mentioned you raised your son alone. He clearly admires you tremendously for it." A small smile touched Michelle's lips. "Jack has always been my champion, and now it seems he's become yours." Before Allison could formulate a response to that loaded statement, the elevator arrived at the daycare floor. As she stepped out, Michelle added, "Just be careful, Allison. There's more history here than you know." The cryptic warning lingered in Allison's mind as she collected Noah for lunch. What had Michelle meant? What history was she referring to? And why did she have the unsettling feeling that there was something important Jack wasn't telling her? The success of the investor presentation catapulted Allison into a more prominent role at Little Dreamers. Over the next 2 months, her part-time contract expanded to full-time employment with benefits, a security blanket she hadn't dared hope for. Noah thrived in the company daycare 3 days a week, while she worked from the office. spending the other 2 days at home where she could balance motherhood and career. But Michelle's cryptic warning continued to nag at her, despite frequent interactions with Jack, strategy meetings, product launches, even occasional lunches in his corner office. There remained an invisible barrier between them, moments when his gaze would drift away as if hiding something. On a crisp autumn morning, Alison arrived early to prepare for the quarterly review. The office was quiet, most employees not due for another hour. She stopped by the break room for coffee and nearly collided with Michelle, who appeared equally surprised to see anyone else there. "You're dedicated," Michelle observed, stirring cream into her coffee. "Big presentation today," Alison explained, reaching for a mug. "I wanted to double-check everything." Michelle studied her with that same searching look from their first meeting. "You've made quite an impression in a short time. The Parent Advisory Panel has become one of our most valuable resources." "Thank you," Alison said, warmed by the unexpected praise. "I believe in what we're doing here." Michelle seemed to come to some decision, glancing toward the empty hallway before speaking. "Have you ever wondered why Jack was at that particular grocery store on that particular day?" The question blindsided Alison. In truth, she'd wondered about it often, but had pushed the thought aside, afraid to examine it too closely. "I assumed it was coincidence," she said carefully. Michelle's expression suggested anything but. "Jack doesn't shop at Westfield Grocery. It's 20 minutes from his apartment and in the opposite direction from the office." Alison set her empty mug down, suddenly not wanting coffee at all. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying my brother has his reasons for everything he does," Michelle replied. "You should ask him about Ryan." "Ryan? My ex-husband?" Confusion and unease rippled through Alison. "What would Jack know about Ryan?" Michelle checked her watch. "I've said too much already. Just ask him before things go any further between you two." She departed, leaving Alison frozen beside the coffee maker, mind racing with implications. Why would Jack know anything about Ryan? They moved in completely different circles. Ryan, a mid-level financial analyst, and Jack, the CEO of a successful company. There was no connection that made sense, unless an unsettling possibility formed in her mind. What if their meeting hadn't been chance? What if Jack had sought her out specifically? But why would he do that? The quarterly review meeting passed in a blur, Alison operating on autopilot as she presented figures and projections. Jack appeared normal, engaged and supportive as always, occasionally catching her eye with a smile that now felt laden with unseen complexity. When the meeting ended, Jack caught up with her in the hallway. "That was excellent work," he said. "You've transformed our approach to consumer feedback." "Can we talk?" Alison asked, the words tumbling out before she could reconsider. "Privately?" Concern flickered across his features. "Of course, my office." Once inside the sleek corner office with its panoramic city views, Alison's courage nearly deserted her. Jack gestured to the comfortable seating area rather than his imposing desk, a subtle choice that normally would have put her at ease. "Is everything all right?" he asked, loosening his tie slightly as he sat across from her. "Is Noah okay?" "Noah's fine," she assured him, gathering her resolve. "This is about you and Ryan." The slight stiffening of his shoulders told her Michelle's hint had substance behind it. "What about Ryan?" Jack asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Did you know him?" Alison asked directly. "Before you met me, I mean." The silence stretched between them, heavy with implication. Finally, Jack leaned forward, clasping his hands between his knees. "Yes," he admitted. "I knew who Ryan was before I met you at the grocery store." The confirmation sent a chill through her. "How? Why?" Jack exhaled slowly. "Brookfield Financial Group is one of our largest investors. Ryan worked in their analysis department. About a year ago, he approached me privately with information." Alison's mind raced, trying to make sense of this connection. Ryan had never mentioned anything about Little Dreamers. "What kind of information?" she asked. "Financial projections, competitor strategies, internal discussions, things he shouldn't have had access to," Jack explained, his expression hardening. "He was offering corporate espionage, selling confidential information from his own employer." Alison felt as though the floor had dropped from beneath her. That's not possible. Ryan wouldn't." "He did," Jack said firmly. I reported him to Brookfield's ethics committee immediately. There was an internal investigation, and he was terminated. This happened about 10 months ago. The timeline hit Allison like a physical blow. 10 months ago, when Ryan had claimed he was passed over for promotion unfairly, when his mood had darkened and he'd begun staying out late, claiming to network for new opportunities, when their marriage had started its rapid descent. He never told me, she whispered. He said he was leaving his job because of political games, that his boss had it out for him. I'm sorry, Jack said, genuine regret in his voice. I had no idea he was married at the time, much less that his wife was expecting a baby. Allison's thoughts whirled chaotically. But that doesn't explain why you were at that grocery store, how you knew who I was. Jack's gaze dropped to his hands. After you emailed me about the testing program, I recognized your last name. I did some checking and confirmed you were Ryan's ex-wife. I wanted to make amends, I suppose. Amends? Anger flared suddenly. You felt guilty about getting my husband fired, so you threw me a job as charity. No, Jack said firmly. That's not how it happened. He stood, pacing to the window. When Ryan was exposed, I thought that was the end of it. Then about 4 months ago, my sister Michelle received a threatening email from an anonymous account. What kind of threat? The sender claimed I had fabricated evidence against Ryan Parker, destroyed his career out of personal vendetta, and ruined his family. They promised to return the favor by bringing down little dreamers. Jack turned back to face her. At first we thought it was just Ryan lashing out, but then there were more messages, each containing private information about our upcoming products, my personal schedule, even Michelle's home address. Allison felt sick. You think Ryan was stalking you? We weren't sure what to think. Our security team traced the emails to a public library near your apartment building. That's when I first saw you, dropping off books with Noah in a stroller. A pained expression crossed Jack's face. You looked exhausted, struggling with the diaper bag and books. Nothing like the vindictive conspirator we'd imagined. The revelation that Jack had been watching her even briefly sent an uncomfortable shiver down Allison's spine. So you decided to what? Investigate me? Get close to see if I was helping Ryan in some revenge plot? Initially, yes, Jack admitted, his honesty devastating. I had our security team look into your background, but everything we found showed you were exactly who you appeared to be, a new mother abandoned by her husband, struggling to rebuild your life. Then why approach me at all? Allison demanded, hurt and confusion making her voice shake. Why not just leave me alone? Jack's expression softened. Because the day I saw you at that grocery store wasn't planned. It was genuine coincidence. I was meeting a supplier nearby. When I recognized you, I thought it might be my chance to find out if you were involved. But then I saw you put back that formula, saw the look on your face. He paused. I know that look. My sister wore it when she was raising her son alone, pride fighting with desperation. I couldn't walk away. So your kindness was just manipulation, Allison said bitterly, a way to keep your enemies closer. It started that way, Jack acknowledged, his honesty painful but direct. The product testing offer was legitimate, but yes, I wanted to learn more about you, see if you were connected to the threats. But Allison, within weeks, I knew without doubt you weren't involved. You could have been dismissed from the program then, investigation closed. But you were brilliant. Your marketing insights, your perspective as a parent, you earned your place here completely on merit. Allison stood, needing distance. Why keep the truth from me? All these months building trust, letting me believe our meeting was fate or luck. It was all founded on lies. I wanted to tell you, Jack said, stepping toward her, so many times. But how do you tell someone I approached you because I thought you might be trying to destroy my company? But surprise, I was wrong, and now I can't imagine this place without you. There was raw emotion in his voice that gave Allison pause. And what about now? She asked quietly. Is the threat resolved? Did you find out who was sending those emails? Jack's expression darkened. No. They stopped about a month after you joined the company. Our security team suspected Ryan might have given up or realized you'd connected with me and thought he'd found a better way in, Allison finished, the implication clear and horrifying. She pressed her hand to her mouth. Oh, God. What if he thinks I'm gathering information for him? What if he's been watching me this whole time, waiting? That's why I've had security monitoring your apartment building, Jack admitted. You've been watching my home. Allison's voice rose in disbelief. Without telling me? Just the exterior and lobby, Jack clarified quickly. Basic protective surveillance. After what happened with Michelle's home address being compromised, we couldn't take chances, especially with Noah. The mention of her son snapped everything into sharp focus. If Ryan truly was vindictive enough to threaten Jack's family, what might he do if he thought she was collaborating with the man who'd exposed him? I need to leave, Allison said suddenly, gathering her belongings. I need to think about all this. Allison, wait. Jack moved to block her path to the door, not touching her but clearly distressed. I know this is overwhelming, but please understand, everything that's happened since we truly got to know each other has been real. My feelings for you are real. Your feelings, Allison repeated incredulously. You investigated me, surveilled me, kept crucial information about my ex-husband from me, and you want to talk about feelings? Yes, Jack said with quiet intensity. Because despite how this started, I've fallen in love with you, and I think you feel something too. The declaration hung in the air between them. The worst part was, he wasn't wrong. Somewhere between weekly check-ins and product discussions, between his kindness to Noah and his respect for her work, Allison had developed feelings she'd been too cautious to name. But now, everything was tainted with doubt. I can't do this right now, she said, stepping around him. I need to get Noah and go home. I need space. Jack didn't try to stop her. I understand. But Allison, if Ryan is still out there, still angry, please be careful. The warning followed her all the way to the daycare center, where she collected a surprised Noah early and through the taxi ride home. By the time they reached their apartment, her mind had constructed a dozen different scenarios, each more unsettling than the last. As the elevator climbed to their floor, Allison hugged Noah closer. It's okay, baby, she whispered into his downy hair. Mommy's just being silly. But when the doors opened to her hallway, the sight that greeted her confirmed her worst fears weren't silly at all. Her apartment door stood slightly ajar, light spilling into the hallway. Someone was inside her home. Allison froze, clutching Noah tighter against her chest. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears as she stared at her partially open apartment door. She'd triple-checked the lock that morning. She always did. Fighting the urge to run, she backed into the elevator, frantically pressing the lobby button with her elbow while fishing her phone from her purse. As the doors closed, she dialed 911, reporting the break-in with a trembling voice. The operator advised her to remain in the lobby until police arrived. After ending the call, Allison's finger hovered over Jack's contact. Pride warred with practicality. Finally, she pressed call. Allison, Jack answered immediately, concern evident. I've been worried. Someone's in my apartment, she cut in, voice barely above a whisper as she paced the building lobby. I've called the police, but I'm scared, Jack. What if it's Ryan? What if he's been watching me all along? I'm on my way, Jack replied without hesitation. Stay in a public area. Don't go anywhere alone. I'll be there in 15 minutes. True to his word, Jack's car screeched to a halt outside the building just as two police cruisers arrived. He rushed to Allison's side, stopping short of embracing her but hovering protectively as they explained the situation to the officers. Ma'am, we'll need you to wait here while we check the apartment, one officer said, his hand resting on his holstered weapon. The minutes crawled by agonizingly. Noah, picking up on the tension, began to fuss. Allison bounced him gently, murmuring reassurances she didn't feel. Whatever happens, Jack said quietly, you're not alone in this. I know you're angry with me, and you have every right to be, but I won't let anything happen to you or Noah. Before Allison could respond, the officers returned. The apartment's clear now, Mum, but there was definitely someone inside. You should come up and check if anything's missing. With Jack beside her, Allison re-entered her apartment, instantly noticing subtle differences. A drawer not fully closed, cushions slightly askew. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen counter. I shut that down this morning, she said, pointing but not touching. They were on my computer. One of the officers carefully checked the laptop. Looks like someone was searching through your files. Any idea what they might have been looking for? Work information, Allison replied, the realization dawning. Little Dreamer's data. I have access to product development plans, marketing strategies. Jack's expression darkened. The threats weren't just about revenge. They wanted insider information. While the police took fingerprints and documented the scene, Allison checked through the apartment. Nothing valuable seemed missing. Not her jewelry, not the emergency cash hidden in Noah's diaper bag. The intruder had been hunting for something specific. "Officer, can you tell if they found what they were looking for?" Jack asked. "Hard to say," the policeman replied, "but they left in a hurry." The door wasn't pulled completely shut, suggesting they might have been interrupted or spooked. After the police finished, promising increased patrols and offering to dust for fingerprints, Jack turned to Allison. "You can't stay here tonight." "I know," she admitted, the thought of sleeping in the violated space unthinkable with Noah to protect. "I'll get a hotel room." "I have a better suggestion," Jack said cautiously. "My sister's guest house. It's in a gated community with security." Michelle would insist if she knew the situation. Allison hesitated, exhaustion and fear battling with the complicated feelings she now harbored toward Jack. Looking down at Noah, already drowsy against her shoulder, she made her decision based on what was safest for her son. "Okay," she agreed, "just for tonight." Michelle's surprise at their arrival quickly transformed into fierce protectiveness when Jack explained the situation. The guest house behind her colonial-style home was small but elegant, with a fully stocked kitchen and a portable crib already set up. "I keep it ready for when friends visit with children," Michelle explained, helping Allison settle Noah in the crib. Once the baby was asleep, Michelle fixed them both tea in the kitchen while Jack made calls about security. "I'm sorry about how you discovered the truth," Michelle said, sliding a steaming mug toward Allison. "I pushed Jack to tell you weeks ago." "Why didn't you just tell me yourself?" Allison asked. Michelle stirred honey into her tea thoughtfully. "Because it wasn't my story to tell, and because I wanted to see what kind of person you were first." "And what did you decide?" A rare smile softened Michelle's features. "That you're nothing like your ex-husband, and that my brother isn't as subtle about his feelings as he thinks he is." Before Allison could respond, Jack entered, looking grim. "Security team found something. Your building's maintenance log shows an emergency key was checked out this morning, supposedly for a plumbing issue in your unit." "There was no plumbing issue," Allison said, dread pooling in her stomach. "Exactly," Jack confirmed, "and the signature on the log was R. Parker." The revelation sent a chill through Allison. Ryan used his actual name? That's brazen. "Or desperate," Michelle suggested. "The quarterly report is being finalized this week." "If he was looking for information to sabotage Little Dreamers before the numbers go public, we need to call the police again," Allison said, reaching for her phone. "Already done," Jack assured her. "They're looking for Ryan now, and we've provided all the threatening emails as evidence." Exhaustion suddenly crashed over Allison like a wave. The emotional whiplash of the day, from trusted colleague to target of corporate espionage, had drained her completely. "Get some rest," Michelle said, perceptive as always. "We'll deal with everything else tomorrow." Jack walked Allison to the guest house bedroom door. "I'll be just outside all night," he promised. "You're safe here." In the darkness of the unfamiliar room, with Noah's gentle breathing the only sound, Allison finally let the tears come. Everything she'd rebuilt was threatened again, her sense of security shattered. Yet beneath the fear and betrayal, a small voice reminded her that she wasn't facing it alone this time. Morning arrived with soft light filtering through gauzy curtains and the smell of coffee brewing. Allison found Jack in the kitchen, rumpled from sleeping on the couch, preparing bottles for Noah. "You remembered his formula proportions," she observed, voice still thick with sleep. Jack looked up, a tired smile warming his face. "I pay attention to important things." He handed her a mug of coffee. "There's news. The police found Ryan." Allison's hands tightened around the mug. "Where?" "At a bus station trying to leave town. He had a laptop with him containing confidential Brookfield and Little Dreamers files. They're charging him with corporate espionage, breaking and entering, and several other counts." Jack hesitated. "He's also violated his probation." "Probation?" Allison asked, confused. "What probation?" Jack's expression was pained. "There's something else you don't know. When Brookfield fired Ryan, they also pressed charges for his initial attempt at selling company secrets. He took a plea deal, probation, instead of jail time. That's why he couldn't find another finance job. That's why he was so desperate." The final pieces clicked into place. Ryan's increasingly erratic behavior, his refusal to explain why he couldn't get hired elsewhere, his abandonment of his family, all stemming from his own choices, his own crimes. All this time, Allison said quietly, I thought I wasn't enough for him, that Noah and I were somehow lacking, but it was never about us. Never, Jack agreed firmly. Some people can't face their own mistakes. They need someone else to blame. Noah's cry from the bedroom interrupted the moment. While Allison tended to him, Jack received a call from Michelle with more updates. By the time she returned with a freshly changed Noah, Jack was putting breakfast on the table. Ryan is cooperating with police, he informed her. Apparently he's hoping for leniency by providing information. The investigators want to talk to you later today, just to complete their report. Allison nodded, settling Noah in her lap. What happens now? With my job, I mean. Jack looked genuinely surprised. Your job is secure. None of this was your fault, Allison, but I'm connected to the person who tried to sabotage the company. There's a security risk. The only security risk was Ryan, and he's been caught. Jack interrupted. You are a valuable member of our team who happened to have terrible taste in husbands. His attempt at lightening the mood worked, drawing a reluctant smile from Allison. I'm still processing everything, she admitted. Finding out my ex-husband is a corporate spy, that our meeting wasn't coincidence, that you investigated me. It's a lot to reconcile. Jack set his coffee down, his expression earnest. I know, and I'll understand if you can't get past how this started, but I hope you can believe that what's grown between us since then is genuine. Before Allison could respond, Noah banged his hands on the table, demanding attention. They both laughed, the tension breaking. Maybe we could start over, Allison suggested after a moment. No secrets, no investigations, just two people getting to know each other properly. Hope brightened Jack's eyes. I'd like that very much. In the weeks that followed, Ryan's case proceeded through the legal system. Allison provided a statement but chose not to attend the hearings, focusing instead on rebuilding her sense of security. Little Dreamers installed a state-of-the-art security system in her apartment, but she found herself spending more weekends at Michelle's guest house, where Noah had become a favorite with Jack's sister. The parent advisory panel flourished under Allison's leadership, expanding to include focus groups across the country. Her confidence grew with each successful implementation of her ideas, each acknowledgement of her contributions. As for Jack, he kept his promise about starting fresh. Their professional relationship remained respectfully separate from the personal connection that was cautiously developing. He joined her and Noah for picnics in the park, introduced them to his favorite museum exhibits, and proved himself thoughtful and patient as Allison worked through her lingering trust issues. 6 months after the break-in, Little Dreamers celebrated its most successful quarter ever. At the company party, as Allison watched Jack spinning a giggling Noah around the dance floor, Michelle appeared at her side. You know, Michelle said, following Allison's gaze, I haven't seen my brother this happy in years. Allison smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with the champagne in her hand. He's been good for us, too. He told me you're considering the director position for the new parent research division, Michelle continued. It would mean traveling occasionally, opening new focus group locations. I'm still deciding, Allison admitted. It's a big step. You deserve it, Michelle said with unusual directness. And for what it's worth, Jack already has plans for making it work if you take it, scheduling his own travel to coincide with yours, ensuring Noah could come along on longer trips. Allison turned to her in surprise. He told you that? Michelle laughed softly. No, but I know my brother. He's mapping out contingencies to make sure you don't have to choose between career and family. That's who he is. Always 3 steps ahead, always planning. Later that evening, as the party wound down, Jack found Allison on the rooftop terrace overlooking the city lights. Noah had fallen asleep in the company daycare, where several children were being watched during the event. Penny, for your thoughts? Jack asked, joining her at the railing. I was thinking about that day at the grocery store, Allison replied. How different my life would be if you hadn't been there. Jack's hand covered hers gently. I think about that too. What started as the worst kind of coincidence somehow turned into the best thing that's happened to me. Allison turned to face him fully. I'm taking the director position, she announced, and I know about your contingency plans to help make it work. Jack laughed, caught but not embarrassed. Michelle talks too much. I appreciate it, Allison said sincerely. But I need you to know I'd never expect you to rearrange your life around mine. It's not an expectation, it's a choice, Jack replied. The same choice I made that day in the checkout line when I said, not today. Some things are worth rearranging your life for. In the cool night air, with the weight of secrets finally lifted, Allison made another choice. She leaned forward and kissed him, a gesture that felt simultaneously like closure and beginning. "Not coincidence," she murmured against his lips. "Serendipity." 6 months later, Allison stood in a different checkout line, this time at a small boutique with Michelle beside her, shopping for Noah's birthday celebration. As they waited, Michelle nudged her, nodding toward a magazine display featuring Little Dreamer's latest product line and the headline, "Innovation Meets Real-Life Parenting: How CEO Jack Harrison and Marketing Director Allison Parker are Transforming the Industry." "Still feels strange seeing my name in print," Allison commented, adjusting her engagement ring, a recent addition that Noah had helped Jack present with adorable seriousness. "Better get used to it," Michelle replied with a grin. "The Parker-Harrison partnership is just getting started." As they exited the store, Jack waited outside with Noah on his shoulders, the little boy's laughter echoing across the parking lot. Watching them together, Allison reflected on how a moment of kindness in a grocery store had changed everything, revealing ugly truths, but also building something beautiful and lasting from the aftermath. Not coincidence, not luck, but a choice made when someone saw her struggling and said, "Not today."